couple of years ago, I worked at a 24-hour diner. Sometimes I worked the night shift. One day, I was at Walmart after an afternoon shift I worked, in my really painful, recognisable uniform. The guy in front of me had these crazy eyes and was taking his sweet fucking time bagging up his groceries, and he said hi. So I just said hi back. He was like,
"Oh, you work at the diner?"
And I was like, "Yep." He left the store. I bagged my groceries and walked out a couple of minutes later, but the guy was outside and saw me get in my car. He didn't follow me though, or so I thought, and that was that. So fast forward 2 weeks. I'm working night shift and it's 2 a.m. I was sitting outside smoking a cigarette and talking on the phone. This white van pulls up and guess who fucking hops out? He was like,
"Hey girl, I've been looking for you. You remember me? Do you?"
His eyes were bugging out of his head and he had a few buddies in his van. I stuck the phone in my pocket. He grabbed my wrist and started pulling me to the van and said,
"Oh, come hang out with us."
And I was just like, "Fuck no, dude." I yanked away and started backing towards the door. He kept asking if he could at least get my number. I just ran inside to the back and told my almost 7-foot tall co-worker, who I got on along really well with. I'm still 99% sure he has done some prison time, but they drove off. 2 nights later, one of the windows was shot out with a BB gun during a night shift that I luckily wasn't working, but my co-workers said it was a bunch of dudes who drove by in a white van.
When I was younger, I used to have this old lady in my neighbourhood right up the street. I don't remember her name. I'm sure I can ask my dad, as he used to shovel her part of the sidewalk during the winter, but she was really kind. One day, I noticed that I'd not seen her in a while, about a year or so. I got curious and asked my dad about it, and he told me she was sent to a nursing home before passing away about 2 weeks prior. Well, somewhere around that time. She had no family and didn't write a will, so the city auctioned off her house or something. I'm not really sure what they did, but people were coming into her house and surveying it like they were going to buy it. But yeah, 13-year-old me was really angry that these people were coming into that nice woman's house to gawk at her stuff. Being the loudmouth brat that I was, one day I was walking up the street and started yelling at this older guy in her house. The front door was wide open and he was inside. At the time, I thought it was kind of strange that there was no realtor there, as random people walking into her house had to have some prevention from just taking stuff. The guy overall didn't look scary or anything, but the way he was standing there just seemed ominous. He looked like 35 or so, with a scraggly beard and a little on the plump side. Now, my street's normally pretty busy, but it was a school day and a slow hour, so there was no one on the sidewalk at the moment. The guy starts to approach me slowly, and I feel my heart drop into my stomach. I'd been stared at by older men before and felt creeped out, so I've always avoided men in public. So as this guy approaches, I just feel paralysed with fear. I'm just this 13-year-old girl, and there's no way I can fight him off. At first, he's just plain scary, instead of creepy. He glares at me. "Didn't your parents teach you any manners? All yins need to learn how to respect adults." I don't know who he meant by you all, as yins means sort of like y'all. I'm not sure though, since most people my age don't speak the dialect for some reason. But I was just about to start crying, I was so scared. He then looks down at me and is like, "I'd like to go back and speak with your parents. Where do you live?" I'm just like, hell no, I'm not taking this creeper back to my house. And I'm sweating, because my house is literally within sight from where he's standing. Instead, I try to tell him I've got to go, and begin to walk away. He grabs my arm, a little rougher than necessary to keep me from leaving. "You look old enough to go snooping around by yourself," he growls. "You're a pretty young thing too. How about you make up to me for your rudeness earlier?" In my head, I'm just screaming because this is literally my biggest fear come true. All the bravado I'd had my entire life was gone, and I just wanted to shrink into a hole and die. He tried to drag me up the porch and inside the house, as no one was there since most of the stuff had been already sold, and I screamed as loud as I could. Thankfully, some lady had been walking back from Sephora, or at least I'm guessing so since she had a Sephora bag with her, saw what was happening and started running over, shouting. The man pushed me out of the way and ran down the steps away from the woman. I was lucky I didn't get hurt. I just got some scrapes from falling down the porch steps. The cops were called. I cried as I told them my story, and the next night they found the guy. Turns out he was some hired help that used to work for the neighbour after she got too frail to do housework, so he had the key. He came in to clean up the place while she napped or whatever. So, to my neighbour's random cleaner guy? Let's not meet again.
About a decade ago, when I was 19, I'm female by the way, I lived in a small college town with my sister and her best friend. I worked graveyard shifts at a gas station that was at most a 10-minute walk from my house. The town was very safe, and I never had incidents walking alone at night before, so I didn't really have an issue walking to work late at night. It was a Thursday night. It was about 10:40 p.m. when I left for work. The road was pretty dead, and it felt like I was the only living soul travelling along the road, until a white sedan pulls up to the left of me. The guy rolled down his passenger window, and he looked to be in his early 50s. He bluntly said,
"Hey sexy, where are you going?"
I just glared at him and continued walking, ignoring him. He drove, keeping up with my pace, and asked,
"You want to go to the bar with me?"
I just told him no and continued walking. He gets annoyed and tries guilting me into going by saying he's lonely and wants a girl to keep him company, but I yell for him to go away. He gets pissed and pulls a gun out of the side door, points it at me, yelling,
"Get the fuck in the car, you're going to the bar with me."
Hell no, I'm not. I was internally flipping my shit and my mind was racing, trying to figure out how to get out of this. But thankfully an idea came to my head. I yelled a lie. My dad's the sheriff of this town. If I go missing, he will find you. I don't know if he actually believed me or realised that I was more work than it was worth to him, but he screamed,
"You fucking cunt,"
and sped away. I stood there frozen for a minute, taking in what had just happened, but then I came to my senses and sprinted to work where my supervisor comforted me, and I filed a police report. I never walked to work by myself again after that night.
Well, anyway guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, then please leave a like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you would like to read the stories for yourself, they'll be linked in the descriptions below. And also thank you for everyone for allowing me to read these stories. If you have any stories of your own which you would like to have shared, then please make sure to contact me. Link in the description, and you may be featured in a future video. Well, anyway, I hope to see you soon, and I'll speak to you later.